See on your side?
I'm checking.
Says it's online on this side.
All right, welcome to All Sides of Kennebec. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And this is Jeremy.
And we want to welcome Liz Caruso, who is running for U.S. Congress, CD2, if I'm correct.
Correct.
And, welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Glad to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We're excited.
Absolutely. I mean, you seem to draw in a little bit more of a crowd when you step out into the arena, I guess we could put it, because it is a battle to fight for our rights and freedoms. So.
Absolutely.
Let's dive into a little bit about how's the beginning of your campaign. Well, actually, before we dive into the beginning of the campaign, let's get into a little bit about you. Because a lot of people know a little bit about you, but they don't know you.
Sure. So I have degrees in industrial engineering and a master's in business administration. Went to school at Rensselaer Polytech Institute in upstate New York, and my first job out of college was at Sikorsky Aircraft building helicopters. So that was
cool.
really
That's
cool
awesome.
because at the time and when I was a kid, I wanted to work at NASA. So I was I took flying lessons when I was in high school. So being able to work for an aircraft manufacturing was pretty key. But 30 years ago, I became a registered Maine guide. Actually, 31 years ago, I became a registered Maine guide, and that changed my life. And I left a lucrative fast-tracking engineering career for the Forks, Maine. And I co-owned a year-round outdoor adventure company, so we had whitewater, snowmobiling, and
That's
ATV
cool.
tours.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we just love the outdoors, just the quality of life that we have here in Maine and the peace, the thrill of world-class rivers, just the joy of just being able to walk out your door and head out on a trail or take the dog for a walk along the river. It's what we have here is special. It needs to be protected, and it's really the way life should be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I changed course, and I started a bed and breakfast and a retail store, the Dead River Outfitter Shop, and catered to the needs of area businesses and the tourists and recreationists. And I helped to start the Chamber of Commerce and was the first executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. So I understand the challenges of Maine's tourism industry, and I understand how hard small business owners work.
Right.
I understand how hard it is to have, employees and to run a business. It's especially the hospitality industry that we have so much here in Maine. It's very demanding. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And, so you get to do what you love, but you're still working really hard. Then I met my husband, who's from Millinocket. He's a registered Maine guide also, 30 years. We both started the same year, 1992. But we never met each other until 2001. So we have two sons, and we started a family, a year after we got married. And so I sold my businesses. I wanted to get out of business and be a stay-at-home mom. And it's the best decision I ever made, definitely the most rewarding. And I've homeschooled my boys since day one. So my oldest is 18. He just turned 18 this month. He graduated from high school a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
He has 11 college classes under his belt.
Wow.
And a partial scholarship for college. And so that's been an amazing ride. And then my second son, he is 16. He'll be a senior next year. He's also taking college classes and working. And they're just great kids. And
That's awesome.
the most rewarding thing I think I could ever have done with my life is be home with my kids and homeschool them. So I'm really invested in that. I actually started a homeschool co-op in 2010, so it's now 12 years ago.
Wow.
And we have up to 80 kids a year, over 30 families, and they come from 4 counties. And it's K through 12.
I was going to say,
awesome.
because I went to school up north at the Job Corps on the Loring Air Force Base, and I also ended up going to college out there too. So it really does have a really good sense of family community. So
Yeah.
I definitely can understand why you want to protect that. So, but anyways, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that
So where's
because
the co-op
it is a really good area.
So we're in Madison. and it's just all family run. So, you know, a lot of people, just on a side note, might as well,
Sure.
a lot of people, you know, education's a big thing for
Very.
families, and a lot of people are moving into homeschooling. And so it's really important, because I talk to people about it all the time, and people ask questions. For various reasons, there's a big influx of homeschoolers in the state. And, you know, even my son said, we were talking about, there was a mom that was asking about it, and she was, you know, worried about her kid. And my son said, just have her join a co-op. Make sure she's in a co-op, because it's a great way to be with other kids, you know, once a week, and you get that classroom experience. You have fun together. There's a variety of ways that you can do life together, but also have that, you know, it's a way for kids to get up in front of their peers and give a presentation.
Right.
Or, you know,
They
do
don't
work
lose
for
that
someone else.
socialization.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's kind of a myth too, because I don't know, homeschoolers are pretty social.
Yeah.
I mean, we do, like, our kids were in 2 youth groups. They go to church once a week, and they had co-op. So, and plus if they play sports or rec teams or whatever else they're doing, homeschoolers are
Very,
pretty
very
active.
busy.
Yeah.
I know a few. We're looking into doing homeschooling next year
Nice.
ourselves, because we've had enough with the meddling in our lives, and it just the out of control of trying to take control of our lives. Jeremy was saying that keeping the socialization with our kids is a very important part.
Yeah, I have 3 12-year-old girls, so
I got my 9-year-old.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I also have a friend that's in the speech therapy area, and he talked about how much of a disservice the lockdowns created on our kids, and how far back they were set. So being able to create something that minimizes that impact, I think, is, if I'm ever caught in that position again, I would like to have something like you're talking about, to be able to
plan
fall.
B.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because there's nothing more important than our kids.
Absolutely. They are, and they are our future.
Yeah.
And they have their whole life in front of them. And the big thing for me with educating and having your children is, you know, it's building them up, it's engaging with them, it's empowering them, it's making sure that they are, you know, you are helping them to develop their gifts that they were created for, and just the joy of, you want them to be joyous.
Right.
You don't want them to
Absolutely.
be, you know, especially in the mask, what you're saying with speech development, it definitely set our kids, especially at young ages, where they have to know how to form words, or they have to be able to see people's faces in order to get that connection and to feel approved and to feel encouraged. We do that with our faces, right? Our heart comes out. So, yeah, I can't
You
say
can't
anything.
mask it, like if you're happy, that kind of stuff. You can't
Right.
really mask it with your face.
Yeah.
Unless there's a mask on, of course.
But yeah, so I know that you focus on, you have a few areas that you're focusing on running with your campaign. Let's dive into a few more of those if you want.
One more thing I forgot to say that I part of my bio. So when I had 2 kids under the age of 2, I was elected as the first selectman of the town of Caratunk. So I've been doing that for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did put that up in a little bit of the is it the discussion part on the Facebook. It
Yeah.
says like what the topic's going to be, and then so I tried to find what I could for information that like preset you're running.
That's great. Yeah.
And
Caratunk's a good area too. I have a friend that runs a business up there, so
Oh, nice.
it's a Bentel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great business.
Yep.
Great guys. They have really done a lot.
Yeah, main lakeside cabins.
Yeah, that's wonderful. They have found a way to make it work all year round and be very successful and create
It's a
a great
beautiful area,
product.
too.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So, so I used to live in the Forks and West Forks, but the Greater Forks area includes Caratunk. So it's where the rafting, hunting, fishing, snowmobiling, ATV
So much fun
trails.
stuff.
It is. It's
yeah,
I
they
love
they
the
they have a
forks.
lot of the Irving trails out there that Irving has the lumber industry up there, if I remember right.
well, we
Yeah,
have
I'm not-
Weyerhaeuser.
Okay, it may
now.
have changed
Yep.
over. It's been
Irving,
a few
I think,
years
is
since I've been up there.
north, but what we have Weyerhaeuser land, and it has changed. It was Plum Creek.
Okay.
Yeah, Plum Creek for a
Okay.
long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been in Caratunk. I mean, it's small town, but with a small town, I'm very much familiar with all aspects of municipal government, rural control. And it is a I can't remember. It's not a plantation. It's it's a real
Right.
town. So we have a
Right.
planning board. We have ordinances.
Well, see
Town
that's
manager, that kind of stuff.
I'm kind of the town manager. So you kind of the first selectman kind of a lot of things fall back on
Gotcha.
the board
Okay.
on me. Yep.
see that, and I think that's great that you're able to take on so many more roles than you normally would in say like Waterville, where they divvy it out position by position. You may fill a couple more roles than you normally would. So
Right.
that's it's definitely something that I think sets you apart from others. I know one big area that people are really interested in hearing about right now is what are we going to be doing to help our main businesses moving out of the pandemic? Well, we're pre-pandemic now, right? I think that's what it is now. I'm not 100% sure. Well, we'll have to check that. Post,
Right.
pre, or not pre. What am I saying?
Post.
Post. Thank you. See, I lose it sometimes. But yeah, post. So we're moving away from what we were at with the massive
Basically
lockdown.
an endemic.
Right.
Because
Right.
COVID's not going away anytime soon.
No, and some people suggest this is time to learn how to live and figure out how we're going to set our structures up to protect our elderly, like how we probably should have set it up in the beginning. But let's get into talking about maybe what do you want to do for some businesses moving forward? How would you want to help bring more I don't know if funding to the area to help maybe some businesses that need it? How would you bring in more revenue to help?
Well, you're asking about in the state level. You're talking about like at the state level or
Well,
the
'cause she's ready
federal
for
level.
federal.
Right. Well, that's
So-
why I'm saying like as
Well,
as
I
a
think
whole.
in general, what we need, what all of our families need, all of our businesses need, is we need, inflation to come down. We need help with, jobs, filling our job openings. I've traveled throughout, and I've spoken through a lot of businesses and traveled throughout CD2, which is 11 counties. So it's everything from Lewiston and Auburn, Androscoggin County, up the border all the way to Canada, as well as, Waldo, Kennebec County, Bar Harbor, Hancock, all the way up. And the things that we're all struggling with here, and especially in the tourism industry, as well as any industry, is the price of fuel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Energy. So a nation is run on energy.
I was gonna say we had to get some K1 recently, and it was $7.99 a gallon.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, K1.
Yeah.
So and I'm sure K2 is a little bit cheaper, but not much
it's almost
more.
$5 just for gasoline. And
Yeah.
the thing is, it's not just affecting us driving places. It's the cost of our food. Farmers have 55% of their costs are in fuel and fertilizer.
I believe it.
Yeah. I
And
believe
fertilizer is based on fuel, natural gas.
Right. It's kind of like a
So-
top-down approach. If fuel goes up, everything goes up.
Everything
Right.
goes up. Plus you have to bring your supplies everywhere. Plus the supply chain. But in any event, if we can just open up our U.S. energy industry, our fossil fuel, our oil and gas, if we can open that up like it was
Right.
about
Right.
17 months ago,
Yeah.
when gas was down to $2.50, and our American industries were doing what they do best, working.
Absolutely.
Employing workers. With the pipeline, we lost 11,000 workers. If we just stop over-regulating our industries and let Americans work,
Yep.
and let
Absolutely.
businesses open their doors and let them run, we'll be able to bring the prices down. It's going to take a little while because Biden is still doing this to our industries. He just canceled two big projects, and he has no interest in opening things up and giving relief to Americans.
I was gonna say I want to say it was within the first couple of days that a lot of the public lands that had
Right,
these
he
leasing
stopped the
rights,
leases and
those were
stuff.
stopped.
He put a moratorium on leasing and drilling. He closed the pipeline. He put a lot of more regulations on. The federal government has to get out of the way of business.
I just got to add one thing into that because somebody will try to fact check this. There is one state that blocked it, and that was Louisiana. As far as I know, they're the only ones that aren't playing ball. I just wanted to put that out there because somebody will say, "Oh, well, they lifted it," and they'll. I had this argument with a few people already, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, he was just quoted recently being proud that Americans are going through this hardship, and he's like, "Oh, it's a transition."
Yeah.
So he's calling this transition to going electric,
Right,
with
like
electric
green
vehicles.
energy.
But this is not a transition for
No.
us. This is life or death for a lot of people. This is, and he doesn't
Especially up
know
here.
this.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right. He doesn't get it because the DC elite is so out of touch with people like rural Mainers, with ordinary citizens like us. Right. They don't know what it looks like to have to bundle up and turn your thermostat down like I did with my kids and put a hat on and put some layers on, or having to choose between whether or not I'm buying food or medicine,
right.
or if I can fill up my oil tank at home. There are people on fixed income. There are people on
Social Security,
single income, right? And single family incomes, and we don't have that much leeway.
No.
So part of the job of our Constitution, one of the principles, is to promote the general welfare, and he is doing the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I know a lot of families are like, we support, trying to do better for the environment. Like, I don't want people to think that we're against the environment.
Course, yeah.
But what I see is let's build the infrastructure before we go pulling the plug.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people, because I know one big debate is, say like a bunch of people, I don't know how, you would have to look up the numbers, but from what I was reading, the generalization of the topic was, it was talking about if, say like the whole road that you live on went out and bought EV, electric vehicles, most people plug those in at the end of the night. So it talks about what would happen if all those vehicles were plugged in at once.
Right, overutilization
right,
of the grid.
And what it would do to the infrastructure. And then the fact checkers say that it wouldn't crash it. But the part that it talks about is we have to upgrade. Mm-hmm. So it says they already know that it has to be upgraded.
We definitely need to upgrade our grid.
But it just seems like that whole part is being left out.
Well, it's just common sense. You can't cut supply without cutting demand.
Right.
And the thing is that these green energy items like solar and wind and electric, they require a lot more energy to build.
Oh, yeah.
To build them requires energy, and it requires minerals that we don't even have in this country that, you can only find some of them in China. So we're putting ourselves at the disposal of China. So we're not ready to go there yet. But, I think it's part of his agenda to just weaken us.
I kind of wonder if they just want like the subsidies that come with it. Are they building these subsidy schemes to promote bigger businesses to make money for a certain few individuals that can afford to build this out? You see what I mean? So
it's cronyism.
Right.
Well, certainly the developers are the ones that are the developers of wind and solar are the ones that make the most money from it. It's certainly them. Yep.
So, but let's move into a few other topics.
Sure.
What do you think we should go into next to talk about?
Well, you have a bunch of paper there, so what's some of the things that you want to talk about?
Absolutely.
Well, it wasn't good. I don't have anything to read off of, but I could tell you, basically the reason why I'm running is because we have, we have a situation in our country where the people who are, the DC elite, the ruling people down in DC are just out of touch with what ordinary citizens are going through. And Mainers are part of that, population, that movement across our land, that we're just rejecting the way politics has been practiced.
It seems like we get a lot of push from Massachusetts, New York, with a lot of outside influence of money that affects some of the outcomes here. How do you feel with, how do we combat that, do you think, with bringing people forward? How do we help other candidates that can bring the change that we need forward? What do you think we should do to help more people out?
To help candidates?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, we have to, we're at a time right now where we are in a battle of freedom versus tyranny. And we are in a battle where people have to know who the candidates are who are going to stand for our values, for our freedoms, for our faith, for our Constitution. And so if that is who you are, if that's who you are as a constituent, as a voter, you need to get out and support them. And part of that is getting out to vote, making sure you're registered to vote, making sure you're registered to vote for a party if there is a primary, making sure you're registered to vote for people who are going to defend the Constitution, uphold your rights down in CC. But that's really why I'm running. We need someone who is not just going to go along to get along, to just go down and have a country club experience down in DC. This is not a game right now. I mean, we have a globalist strategy and an elitist, regime down in DC that is trying to, over-regulate, over-control, take away our freedoms. They're not abiding by the Constitution. And we need people who are going to fight to uphold our constitutional freedoms, to bring righteousness and truth back to government and restore the government back to the people. We need to have, the power of the Constitution belongs to the people.
Absolutely.
And we need people who are going to represent us who do that, not with any special agenda, but who are really want what the very essence of what makes America great and our foundational principles. And that is, the basis is in the Constitution. But I have 5 areas that I can kind of all the things that I'm for. Mm-hmm. I don't just have 2 or 3 talking points like a typical, because I'm not a politician.
Right.
I'm a homeschool mom. I'm a small business owner. I care deeply about my nation, about our freedoms, and about our future and what's happening to our kids. And so I don't just say, okay, I'm all about the economy and the border, but I have a bunch of areas. So the first one is I want to uphold our Constitution. Our First and Second Amendments are under attack.
Absolutely.
And we need to make sure that, our Second Amendment holds everything else in place. So we cannot have, a Second Amendment that is challenged or hindered.
Well, see, and this brings me into one big thing that I know people are talking about is how do you feel about these bills that would, if you get elected, these bills that come out that are anywhere between, 600 and 2,000 pages, something you can't read through in the allotted time that they give you. How do you vote on something like that?
Exactly. How do you even read it? And then they have leadership that is forcing you to make a decision. Like they had that bill, one of the bills for Ukraine, it dropped at 1:30 in the morning. And they wanted you to vote
Absolutely.
on it the next morning.
Right.
So I think we could solve all that by just having single bill legislation, single topic. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to read it, and we can't have, pork-filled special interest nonsense put under a nice title that really has nothing to do with
Patriot Act.
Right.
Yeah. Or,
title.
A bunch of, you could just tell. I mean, I don't trust any of it. So we need to make sure that we just get back to the basics and stop playing their games. It's not about sending the wealthy down there to get wealthier.
Right.
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 And I believe we need to have term limits so that we don't run into that problem.
Well, before we jump into term limits, I just want to ask this one thing. With the way, like, how our Second Amendment's being attacked, the argument seems to be, I can't say everyone says this. I don't know what the percentage would be, but some people, when we have these mass shootings, they run and say, we need more legislation on guns. We need to think this through a little more because last time I checked, the only people that follow these laws are law-abiding citizens.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's one area that I wanted to put out.
Yeah.
How do you feel about more laws or less laws?
So before you answer that, there's one specific. So Susan Collins is calling for to kind of replicate what we have in Maine in what they call the yellow law.
Right.
So how do you feel about doing that she's calling for national yellow laws at the national level. How would you feel about doing something like that? Do you know what that is?
I knew about the red, but what are the yellow
So
ones?
yellow law, like basically what we have in Maine is if you feel, or if someone feels like someone is a threat to someone, then what can happen, if I'm not mistaken, is they have to have probable cause. The police can take the person into involuntary custody to have them evaluated by a doctor.
Kind of like blue paper. Right.
So if you get in, so what happens at that point is if they get evaluated by a doctor and the doctor says they are a threat to someone or someone else, then that they can then go to a judge to get a warrant to take away their guns for a year. So basically, it's due process,
right?
Sort of, it's due process because because you're getting it signed off by a judge at least, but it's also being
then you
done by a doctor that can actually evaluate you.
But we see it so much where people's politics bleed through into their business life. How do we know that this isn't? You see what I mean? So I can kind of see why people may push back on it.
I don't know. I just know that Susan Collins is out calling for it so at the federal level.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, with regards to this, I think we need to make sure that we are not causing law-abiding citizens to pay the price
Absolutely.
for people who are breaking the law. Criminals are not going out of their way to follow the law.
Correct.
And same thing with people with mental health illness. I think that these issues, I know that, Biden, people who want more control over the citizenry, the only way they can have that is if they take away your guns.
Right.
And that's what Lexington and Concord was all about. And so, I would never go along with that at all. I think, we have to make sure that, that there is that citizens who have the absolute right to be armed for self-defense, and so that we don't have something like what happened in Shanghai.
Well, and this is another thing too. A lot of the mass shootings that we've seen, a lot of these people are on the FBI's warning list. That they're just never investigated into. They're just put on the back burner. So some people argue, how about we enforce the laws we do have on the books? Because I think there's like something like 22,000 gun laws.
Well, and the other thing is that
one more going to make you feel safe?
Some of these red flag laws, they're faulty.
Anyway.
We do have background checks, but a lot of the background checks are faulty.
Right.
They're triggered for someone that doesn't have shouldn't be held back from having a gun, but there was a system trigger
glitch,
and then it has to get fixed. So but I think what really we need to do for these kind of school shootings is we have to make our schools safer, and there are ways to do that. I mean, you can have single point entries, you can have 24/7 cameras, you can make sure that there is security there. I think they call them school resource
officers. I think is the biggest thing, because I know a lot of places, especially this past year, removed their school resource
because
office.
of COVID and the cost.
I would imagine that's what the excuse was, but is that is that an excuse we want to pay?
Absolutely not. We need to make our children are our greatest treasures. If you put security in stores, if you put security in banks,
right,
those things are not more precious than our children. We should absolutely be securing our schools from these mental illness, attacks. But that is not a reason why you take freedoms away from law-abiding citizens, especially the Second Amendment. But so I'm also a big advocate for our First Amendment, which is under attack.
Absolutely.
The freedom of speech, the freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, all those things are under attack through this whole pandemic. But
I know they just had the Ministry of Truth.
Ministry of Truth.
They had
Yeah.
I
Rein that back a little bit.
It's what I've heard.
Cancel it.
So
well, that's the way that this administration likes to weaponize public policy, government agencies, unelected bureaucrats against the citizenry. And we can't let that happen. So we need to make sure that we have people in Congress who will fight for that, who will not allow that to happen.
And we saw this happen with the IRS just recently, too, back in, I would say, the 2000 era.
Like 2010-ish.
Somewhere around there, yeah. But we definitely saw
groups.
Yeah, we definitely saw how that played out, and it wasn't good.
And last time I knew, she was never held accountable for that.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We can't be politicizing our freedoms and our privacies. So that's one area, First and Second Amendment. Second area is medical freedom and educational freedom. So I've been a big advocate for that. Over the years, I helped to collect signatures for LD 798, which was the veto of LD 798,
right,
which was the elimination of philosophical and religious exemptions for school vaccinations. I also testified against the COVID mandate. I believe absolutely that the government has no business in our personal medical decisions or bodily autonomy. So we need people who are down there who are going to fight for that. This is a serious thing and it affects everyone. And I'm against any mandate, whether it's mask or vaccine. It's just government has no business laying mandates on individuals.
Right.
I know most people, for the most part, they have their way of how they measure their risk assessment. Who's the government to say they can do it better? It just so I definitely agree with you.
Or choosing the way you want to get medical help.
Absolutely.
Choosing how you want to, that is.
Well, we saw how they changed the way the billing scheduling is, and a lot of that messed up the way that they treat people. The coding was changed, I believe is what it was.
For health insurance.
Yes. And this is kind of become like a hidden little area that people aren't looking into, that I feel that they need to start exposing a little more, because it would go to show how they're looking to just get the money out of you, and it's not about your health.
Absolutely. Well, anytime you let government in an industry or in business, it's going to be complicated and it's going to be expensive.
Absolutely.
And you're going to lose your freedom. So we need to back out government, less government, less intervention. And then educational freedom is also really important to the voters. So, one of the things that is causing families, voters to storm the school boards and the voting booths is their children's education.
Absolutely.
And certainly parents should have the freedom to determine their children's education. And schools need to be transparent. I believe in, school choice.
Right. I was just going to ask
that. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's critical that we use our schools not for CRT, not for, pornography, anything like that. We have to get back to the basics. We have to bring order again to our classroom. We have to make sure that there is respect, that they are taught responsibility instead of enablement. And we have to make sure that our kids are prepared to be successful when they graduate. They're our next workers. And when you look at, the poor work ethic, when you look at the...
I feel like a lot of the way that our education system's set up now is we're just setting them up to fail. It feels like... and
that shouldn't be the case.
No.
We need them to succeed.
It's too big.
Absolutely.
Education at the top level.
So if we get back to, causing them to be proficient at math, reading, true science,
right,
true American history, true writing, and not everyone's meant for college, and we don't want everyone to go to college because we need contractors.
Yep.
Right.
How many we can't find people to do the projects, to do the work, to build. And so we need to have need to reinforce our programs for vocational, for trades.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Focus on STEM.
Tech colleges.
Yeah, but whatever these kids are going to do, we want them to be prosperous.
Absolutely.
They're our next workers, our business owners, our entrepreneurs, our problem solvers. And we need to equip them to do that. And that is what the schools should be doing.
Yep.
They have to get back to that, because I feel like we have a lot of people who are not working. Why aren't they working? Well, their parents maybe collected, or they never saw their parents, have
They were
these
never
strong.
they were never given the tools to succeed.
Yeah. So let's give them the tools to succeed. And then, everyone knows that it feels good to get a paycheck. It feels
Absolutely.
good to earn, and you feel good about yourself. And then you have purchasing power, and then you want to do better. And so we just need to
work your way up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We need to get that back, and we can do it. But our schools are the place for that.
I think so too.
Right now we just have to transform what they're focusing on in schools to make it so that these kids are the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I do feel that it seems more of the education focus is in the administration level. So
I feel like it's more geared towards liberal arts stuff as opposed
That-
to like mathematics
that too.
and science and technology and
right.
what they should be learning
Absolutely.
to be
Yeah.
productive.
Well,
members
like
of
we were
society.
we've talked before. I mean, I wasn't taught how to balance a checkbook in high school.
Wow.
Most people you think should.
You absolutely.
Right, yeah. Luckily I took
Me
a
were-
class called
right.
Chapter Lawrence. and
Well,
they
I
did
know-
that there,
Oh,
but-
I thought, well,
Waterville does JMG, job forming graduates.
they should have personal finance. We
But
taught that. We did the Dave Ramsey personal finance class. which
It's
was
not as big as it should be, I guess is what I'm getting
And
at.
It
should
should
be
be a
required.
required.
Right.
Yeah. I thought I
Right.
saw that in the requirement that I was looking up, and maybe they could have picked like 3 or 4, and that was just one of them. But
One of the
it's
electives.
critical.
Yeah, making
Yeah.
an
I mean,
elective.
what the federal government is doing right now, what they're doing with passing these legislations that we don't have money for. There is no small business owner or no family head that would ever treat their finances like that.
No.
Not at all.
So we have to make sure our kids understand that, and we can't be giving away everything for free, because then they don't respect earning it, and they don't know how to responsibly use what they have.
Right, then they feel entitled to it.
Right.
Exactly. And that is never a key for success for a nation.
And it's hard because it's a party thing. Both parties just spend.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have to rein it in.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not about, we have to, I'm an American first. And so we have to purge the people out of government that aren't going to be pro-American and, do what's best for the constituents.
Right.
But that's my, one of my other key areas is I'm an America First candidate. So what does that mean? Well, I love my country, and I believe that we are a light on a hill. as
Absolutely.
President
We are the
Reagan said.
beacon. We are
Yeah.
the beacon.
But we, this Biden administration is trying to weaken us so that we're not, and we have to get that back. So some of these things that we have to make sure that we are fighting against national security threats, and there are quite a few right now.
Yes, there is.
So it's our sovereignty that we have to make sure, and that's our borders. So we have to make sure that we have secure borders. That is like one of the number one issues.
I've been reading a little bit about how they rotate northern border patrol agents to the southern border. It's like every 3 months. or
Yeah, I was
something.
just talking to
Yeah,
someone
it's
today or
crazy.
yesterday that I wasn't talking to it, but he messaged me and he's leaving. But they're sending our border patrol to Ukraine.
Yep.
The most important thing for us is to have, in its Article 4 of the Constitution, we have to have secure borders. Right now we have a foreign invasion and coming up through our southern border, and we have to stop it. So we have to make sure that we are abiding by proper immigration law that we already have in the books. And we have to make sure that we are supporting our border patrol. We have to stop the influx of criminals, drug traffickers, human traffickers.
That's a big thing. It is what's coming over the border for drugs and the devastation it's causing in our communities.
Well, and this administration is actually expanding it. They're not trying to stop it. They're inviting them, and then they're expanding it. And then they are at taxpayer cost shipping them so that all the states are border states. And, Portland is struggling with that right now.
We've seen.
Those are the Ukrainians, right? That we have, isn't?
No, that's from the southern.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was. I think there are a few that come up from Ukraine. I know
I thought
that.
there was a
I know there
big
was
influx where now the hotels are all completely out of vacancy.
I wouldn't doubt it. I know
I
that.
thought that was because of Ukrainians, but I wasn't sure.
We'll have to check. We'll have to double check that.
But, in order for us to be helpful to people who are seeking asylum, true asylum,
Right.
true hardship.
Well, if we can put some numbers out there. What is it? 87% of people don't come back to their hearing, I think is the number. It's less than like 15% come back to their hearing. Wow. Once they're summoned to appear.
Well, a lot of the drug cartel, they send them on missions. Like they're paying a lot of money to get into this country, and then they're distributing the fentanyl or distributing the trafficking.
That's another big thing too. Is they're using these people to further the drug trade. So essentially, what's happening is they're told, look, you're not going across the border unless you deliver this to the right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. You have to pay. Right. Or something will happen. Like they'll hold family members behind at the border to get those drug shipments through. It's really sick how it's done.
But the point is, it's our border.
Exactly.
And the point is, it's the government's responsibility to secure it, and then it becomes the state's responsibility. So we have to make sure. And I know I've spoken with people in ICE, and there is when we win this House, when we win the Congress in November, that is like number one legislation is to secure our borders. And so that's really important. The second thing is we need secure elections. That's a national security threat as well. And so we need to make sure that it's not easy to commit voter fraud. We need to make sure that our vote counts, that there is voter confidence.
How do you feel about voter ID?
Voter confidence.
Absolutely. Voter ID, it's you have to put your ID to buy beer, to buy cigarettes, to get on a plane, to just about
whatever you
rent a car. You need to show ID. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to show your ID in order to cast a vote. And with one vote per person, and that doesn't include dead people. It doesn't include we have to stop the trafficking of ballots. We could stop the machines. We can make sure we have paper ballots.
Okay, so you just answered it. Never mind. I was going to say, how do you feel about the electronic machines?
We just have to make sure that people have confidence
in
this process. We need people not to stay home. They need to get out. And they need to exercise their civic duty.
Yep.
So energy independence is also, so as I said, it's a national security issue. We already went over that. We need to stop the printing and spending.
Yep.
Yes. That's huge.
That is huge. We have to start, repealing some of those things. It's just filled with special interest nonsense, and that's what's causing high taxation. So we need to bring it back. It needs to be common sense.
Yeah, they just spent $40 billion to Ukraine.
Right, and
That's
so
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous because we are in desperate need here in this country. Our own citizens need our attention.
I was going to say that $40 billion. We need that.
We need formula on our shelves. We need to.
We just had, what was it? Was it England? Somewhere over that way. They just sent a bunch of baby formula to us to support us. That's crazy. Usually it's us sending stuff out.
Exactly, and this has to do with federal agencies getting in the way of business.
Yep, absolutely.
And that they're weaponizing agencies against us. And so I don't know why this is not a political party question. This is everyone.
Right.
This is affecting everyone.
Yep.
And we have to protect our critical infrastructure. So that's fertilizer, food, of which is formula. There is no reason why this should be happening in the United States of America. So,
also too, a few conversations I've had is we need to start diversifying what we have for these sources too, instead of just using one huge source like Walmart, you know what I mean, how it's a direct line to China. Mm-hmm. So if we can break these back up into, I don't know if it would have to be mom and pop shops, but something on a more open scale to keep stuff coming in. So if this truck route closes, we can take this truck route, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's definitely interesting how this is played out over the last year now. Yep. I mean,
and then my last fourth area is I am pro-life, but I'm also pro-women. And so as a woman, I can do that. And so I think that the attacks on the female sex is absolutely crazy right now. We need to preserve our Title IX rights, and we need to preserve the safety of our girls.
Title IX rights, let's break that out a little bit more so people understand what that is.
Well, we fought for equality, women, whether it's women's pay or, women jobs. I mean, I was an engineer. I went to school and there was 1 out of every 5 that was a woman. And so we've come through a lot of strides that way. And we need to make sure that, that just because someone identifies as something doesn't mean they get to lessen the value of someone who's a woman.
Right.
So protection in bathrooms, protection for girls' sports, making sure that I believe everyone should be able to play sports, but it should be an equal and level playing field. So keep biological girls on their teams competing against them, and have another team that has, biological males that are identifying as women so that they're competing against each other. So it's fair. Everyone still gets to play sports. I think sports are so important.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to diminish anyone's chances to do that. And we don't want anyone to be unsafe either.
Right.
And same thing with, safety, like women's prison cells. You shouldn't have a biological male who's a convicted rapist.
I was going to say there's some interesting stories that have come out of California. So
horrible. It's not interesting. I mean, it's just horrible that these women prisoners are getting impregnated.
Right.
Wow. I guess I have.
Well,
I haven't looked into that at
they're
all.
handing out contraceptics now in female prisons to prevent
they're
pregnancy.
trapping a woman in a cell with a biological male.
Right.
Wow.
So, and safety also is child trafficking. We have to end it. We have to end it. We have to expose it. We have to rescue them, and we have to prosecute the perpetrators.
And that seems to be one area that is put on the wayside too. We need to start going after the big heads of the cartel.
That's
the CIA. They know who these people are.
they absolutely, and that's the thing. We can't send politicians down there
No.
who are going to turn the other way. They know what's happening,
Absolutely.
and we need people who are going to fight and who don't. It's not about it's not about fame or a name on the door or money. This is supposed to be service. This is civil service, sacrificial service, and we need people who are going to fight for us.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm about. I don't want to leave Caratunk. I don't want to leave Maine, but I was asked and I'm willing to go. So I don't have political talking points. It's just the cry of my heart that happens to echo what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. So I guess we can start winding it down a little bit. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you may want to put out there before we...
I can think of. I mean, I'm sure there's always something to talk about.
Right.
Right. So I guess where can people find you?
Oh, sure. LizForMaine.com is my website. And then a Facebook page is Liz Caruso for U.S. Congress.
And if somebody wants to donate to your candidacy, where's the best spot to do that?
Sure, they
to?
can do it at the website, lizformaine.com. There'll be a donate button, or they can mail a check to Caruso for Congress, P.O. Box 89, Caratunk.
89, that's a small number.
Yeah.
I was expecting at least like 3,
3 or 4 digits.
But that's awesome. But anything else that we need to put out for a shared studio or anything?
No, we're good.
Okay, so definitely we want to thank a shared studio for allowing all sides of Kennebec to make this possible. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I would like to thank Liz Caruso, who is running for U.S. Congress, CD2.
CD2.
For stopping in and having this great chat with us.
And the primary is when? The 9th?
So June 14th.
June 14th.
Yep, June 14th. You have to be registered as a Republican. If you're unenrolled right now, you can still register all the way up until Election Day. So
Good information to know.
I think it's starting in 2 years. They'll be able to vote in the primaries, right? Unenrolled.
I think so.
Maine has this new law where...
Yeah, I think you
unenrolled
may be
people-
right.
And that's when it takes effect, so...
So that'll be interesting. Until next time, remember,